Hey, everybody. Welcome to the AWS Partner Profile Series. And I'm with Rob Schoeppe, the Chief Revenue Officer at AccelByte. Rob, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and talk a bit about your extensive career in the video games industry?
Hey everyone. So yes, Rob Shoppy. I am a 20 plus year games industry veteran. So I got my start in the late 90s in QA, and I've essentially done every job along the way. So I started in late 90s in QA at Electronic Arts, and I think that's where a lot of people start. That's just a proving ground.
Right.
From there, I went to Bandai Namco Games in the early 2000s, and I was one of the original founding members of Bandai Namco Games, bringing Pac-Man to every mobile phone in the world. So huge and wonderful experience working with some of that legacy IP for many years. So I stayed at Bandai Namco for about 7 years, and then I transitioned over to Sony Mobile. And at Sony Mobile, I helped to launch the Xperia Play. The Xperia Play was this really forward-looking future phone. Essentially, it was a smartphone with a PlayStation controller attached to the bottom, and it helped to bridge the gap between hardcore AAA games experience and the mobile experience. And I spent about 5 years with Sony. And throughout that tenure, I got really involved in cloud and looking at the future of cloud and what impact it would have on the games industry as a whole. And then 2016, I joined AWS, where I spent about 8 years as general manager of AWS Game Tech and helping to or working with many wonderful people around the company to build what AWS Game Tech is today. And then about 6 months ago, I joined AccelByte. So here I am today and excited to talk to you a little bit more about what AccelByte is and how we can help our customers.
That is awesome. And what a great, background that you have in the games industry, right? So, when we're talking about the partners that we work with and people that are building these technologies that game developers are going to use to bring their games to millions of people, people that are building this come from game development. So they understand what it's like to want to go ahead and build games and get them out there. And so that informs the type of services that we build together, the type of solutions that we provide, because it's not just about the technology, it's about enabling game developers to build better, more, bigger games and get the technology out of the way, right?
Very, very true. We want to make sure we're always listening to what those pain points are and then solving for that. Our goal is to help customers innovate and build the best games possible and redefine the future of what a live service game could be, and take away a lot of that undifferentiated heavy lifting and have them focus on making the game. And I'm a game technology nerd, so my job is going to be bring you the technology to help solve those problems.
All right, let's talk a bit about AccelByte. So what does AccelByte offer to game developers?
So, to start with, ExcelByte is a massively scalable, extensible, and customizable platform to support live service games. And again, it really helps game creators focus on what matters most, making the game and the creative elements. And we help remove some of that undifferentiated heavy lifting. And so, very specifically, first and foremost, we help our customers speed up time to market, again, by really helping them to focus on the core game creative. And so our platform is designed with discrete microservices. And so the customers can build in and use what they need specific to that game. Second, our services are platform agnostic and support cross-platform identity. That way, our services are available regardless of the platform or game service that you want to deliver to your end customer. It doesn't really matter what platform that player is playing on. They're still going to get the same experience, and you're going to have that unified backend across all those platforms.
Hmm.
And then third, we have an experienced co-development team that can help augment your own internal resources and help speed up time to development. And so some of the aspects of live service game, like live service games are very complex and very hard and are very custom to the specific game that you want to create. And so in that, A lot of customers look at it and they go, well, how do I do this? And how do I integrate analytics? Or how do I integrate my game server stack? Or how do I integrate some other service that I may have that's custom to me? We have expert resources that can come in and help with that integration. Again, always in the spirit of making sure that the customer can focus on making that great experience that I ultimately want to go home and play. And then we take away all that undifferentiated heavy lifting and put the team and technology behind that to help them achieve that goal.
All right. So basically, you provide those tools that allow game developers to deliver those games and manage them to a global audience. You provide the microservices that you basically bring together to allow for those services to emerge, and you provide the expert team behind it to assist game developers in leveraging AccelByte for their games in a global audience.
That is correct.
All right, Rob, thanks for that intro, but let's go ahead and dive in a little bit further. So specifically, what problems does AccelByte help game developers overcome?
For sure. So the first is we know that developing and operating your own backend services is costly and time consuming. With AccelByte, studios can get started quickly and easily without having to invest large backend engineering teams and can rapidly deploy without a live ops team.
Right, which is really important, right? Game developers want to go and build a video game, not necessarily have to become experts in backend and cloud services, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm a game developer that's interested. What are the benefits of using AccelByte? Why AccelByte?
So first is that we help our customers speed up time to market, like you said, removing undifferentiated heavy lifting, having to build their own backend services. Our platform is designed with discrete microservices, so you can use only what you need as you're building. Second, our platform our services are platform agnostic and support cross-platform identity. That way, our services are available regardless of the platform that your players are playing on. And last, we have extremely experienced co-development team that can help augment your own internal resources to help up speed development and help you meet your milestones.
As we know, game development doesn't just happen in silos anymore for mobile or web or console or PC. Game developers are seeking to get their game out to as many players on as many devices as possible. So having one back end that allows them to address all of those devices and be platform agnostic is critical in modern game development for a global audience, right?
For sure. I think from a player perspective, players just expect it to work seamlessly, and they don't really care what's going on in the back end. And that's where we really come in. It may be the thing that people don't know about, but it is probably the most important aspect of running and operating a live service game.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, when I'm looking at this kind of solution, is it tailored more towards a specific type of game or a specific type of device? How is AccelByte malleable enough to basically meet the needs of any game developer across pretty much any game type?
Yep. And especially in the games industry, we're very aware that there's no one size fits all. So our platform is extremely extensible and customizable and scalable for the specific game or genre. Our platform has been battle tested with proven deployments of live titles, currently supporting millions of players around the globe, meaning that you can really focus, our developers can really focus on creating the experience that they want to bring to their customers with a peace of mind, knowing that their backend will scale to support those users.
All right. And we're going to talk about some of those live titles later. And we're going to talk about how you scale to meet, the millions of players that would want to go ahead and play a particular game and how AccelByte enables that to happen. So, all right. All right, Rob. So again, really great overview. All these different services to help you meet a global audience across a wide variety of devices, microservices based, device agnostic. But if I'm a developer now coming to the AccelByte website, what are the services that I should be looking for? Like, can you describe the offerings that AccelByte has to a developer first, landing on the AccelByte website?
As I said before, AccelByte is a battle-tested, extensible game backend service supporting cross-platform matchmaking, in-game store analytics, and much, much more. So let me start to talk about that a little bit. So let's start first with ExcelByte Gaming Services. So this is the core of the platform. And this is a fully extensible backend platform built on a massively scalable microservices architecture where you can play, assemble, and match players. And so included in this are features like access, play, storage, monetization, engagement, telemetry, and dev testing. These are all things that, as I said, are core to any live service game development, and are the features that customers will need pretty much no matter what. Now, as I said, it's microservice enabled in architecture, and so it doesn't mean that you have to take everything that's in the toolbox day one. You can pick up each individual service, integrate with your game, and then continue to scale as the needs and demands of your game start to increase.
Okay, so if I'm a developer that's just starting out, I may just want, let's say, access and storage and some telemetry data to start and dev testing. And then as I continue to build, I can start layering in some of these other services to increase the service base that I can then offer my customers. I don't need from day one to understand how to stitch all of these things together. I can start with just the microservices that I need to start that development. And as my needs grow, I can add these easily.
That is correct. You can pick one and integrate as you go. We also have a service called AccelByte Extend, which allows you to integrate any custom code or logic you have into those services as well. So in the example of player matching, if you had your own matchmaking or skill-based matchmaking algorithm you wanted to integrate, you can leverage our Extend service to directly integrate that into the existing microservice and then bring custom code. That way, again, it seamlessly integrates to your existing environment or your existing game design without major modification or thinking that, well, it's black box and I just have to use what I was
Right.
given. So extremely customizable for the game.
Yeah, and again, that's super important, especially if you're a game developer that's been around for a while, may have built some of your own custom tools that your dev team really understands. It's deeply integrated into your development pipeline. So instead of having to go ahead and get rid of those, you're able to just go ahead and kind of fill in the gaps of your capability with the microservices that ExcelByte offers and integrate your own custom tools and again, development platforms or operational platforms into the rest of ExcelByte's microservices framework.
That is correct. And what
Very
we've
cool.
from a lot of customers is that nobody wants just a black box thing
Right.
that they don't know what's going on under the hood. And so they appreciate the ability to have some level of managed service. But then as you start to move up, they want some customizability so then they can adjust it for their own environment. And so we strive to just make sure that it's customizable and as extensible to the customer environment and development workflow as possible.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So that's AGS. What else do you offer?
We have ExcelByte multiplayer servers. So this is AMS. And AMS is an extension or add-on to the core ExcelByte gaming service product. This is what we believe to be the most developer-centric and intelligent dedicated server solution for multiplayer games. This is built to support dynamic gameplay traffic and provides a reliable customer experience with 99.9% uptime and hopefully delivers the lowest cost and lowest latency for your players in any region. And a lot of this relies on the AWS backbone and infrastructure. And so we're leveraging the core principles of AWS to make sure that we can bring game content and game experiences as close to the player as possible. And so we're leveraging a lot of the core functionality of AWS infrastructure, availability zones, and in the future, hopefully local zones to bring the games as close to the player wherever they are in the world.
All right. So when we talk about multiplayer servers, what type of multiplayer games are we talking about? Is this for session based? Is this for mobile? Is this for first person shooters? Talk to us a bit about what type of games are best suited for the ExcelByte multiplayer servers.
I say everything in between, but game servers are traditionally, or dedicated game servers are traditionally used for a session-based experience. And that session-based experience can go anywhere from a 30-second experience up to 4+ hours. And so there's no limitation for us in terms of the type of session that we want to host or the duration of the session we want to host. There's also We are also working with many customers to understand what it would take to support a persistent world game server. And so the current AMS infrastructure can support or plug into any kind of existing persistent state infrastructure you may have, and then do a graceful handoff between the persistent state and then a session-based. And so we can manage player progression between both and make sure that's seamless from a player perspective.
Yeah. I mean, and look, really, in truth, the vast majority of multiplayer servers or multiplayer games are session-based games, right? The vast majority. So chances are, if you're building your next game for anything, mobile, PC, web, whatever, AccelByte multiplayer servers are going to be able to handle the type of transactions, the type of connection that you need to provide a multiplayer experience for your players.
That is correct.
Okay, awesome. All right, that's number 2. What else you got?
AccelByte Intelligence Services. So analytics is fundamental to any game experience, especially on mobile. But it doesn't really matter what game you're making. The more you know about your player behavior, the better game you can make and the better experience that you can provide back to that player. So AIS enables developers and publishers to gain games studio-specific intelligence by storing, processing, and exporting and visualizing all of that player data and player telemetry across multiple platforms. And so the added value here is, as we said, because we can support the cross-platform identity. And so that if you have a player playing on Xbox, PlayStation, mobile device, or Steam, they have their identity that goes to those platforms. It's all unified at the AccelByte gaming service layer. And then we can unify the player telemetry across all of those platforms as well. And so the value here is traditionally you would have to go and look at, well, what is this player doing on this platform? What are they doing on this platform? How does it change? And then do some intelligent stitching on the back end. We take all that heavy lifting off. We unify the player identity, and then we do the analytics and intelligence across all of the platforms running through AGS. So you have a single pane of glass and a single pane or a single view of your player telemetry across your game.
Okay, I mean, honestly, this is one of the most exciting parts or services that I think AccelByte offers, because if you take a look at what it takes for modern game development, right? Steam announced, last year that they had more than 14,000 games show up on the Steam marketplace. And what that means, we have more games than ever before. We have more online games than ever before. We have more people playing on more devices than ever before. And as you pointed out, a lot of times that same player may have a different identity from service to service. And so it makes it very difficult to understand as you're chasing your customer, right, across that digital landscape, to understand how they're playing, what motivates them to play, why they play the way that they do. So this allows you to bring kind of all of those different personas for that individual player together to understand them in totality, so you can provide a better, smoother gameplay experience for them. And I'm assuming that telemetry data, aids in figuring out where people are having problems in a game, the type of things or behaviors that people exhibit within games. You can create, follow-on products or DLC that speaks to the way those people are playing. So this just tells you how those people are playing across all those different devices instead of just looking down any one particular vector.
That is correct. And then as you started to touch on, really helps the customer to better tailor the experience. So how do you do dynamic gameplay tuning based on the game player and how they're progressing through your game, right? So if they hit a certain level and you see that they're not progressing, how do you dynamically change that to make sure that they play your game longer and extend the lifetime value? Also helps with monetization aspects. So again, if you have a player who's playing on multiple platforms and they interact with those stores differently, you can see that in a unified view and then understand what that true player behavior is, and then make more informed decisions to provide the right content for your player, whether that's cross-promoting or putting the right storefront content or merchandise in front of them at the right time.
Okay. All right. So you have all these different microservices that you can use as you see fit, right? In the time that you need them. So you can stitch them together. You can integrate your own custom backend piece that you have into this as well. You're able to go ahead and access then multiplayer servers that tie into this framework. And you're providing the telemetry data and accessibility data, all of this stuff through AIS across a wide variety of platforms. That sounds like a lot for a game developer to have to manage on the back end in terms of development. So I understand you also offer a developer toolkit that helps to streamline.
Yes, of course. We also have AccelByte Developer Toolkit. And so this is an all-in-one platform that streamlines game development by helps reduce iteration time and also helps reduce developer resources by providing a consistent experience across all your platforms and engines. And at the core, what ADT does is it helps you distribute your gameplay builds all over the world where you can further improve playtests, monitor your game health in minutes. And one of the really exciting things about this, so if you take the experience of build distribution, today we live in this remote world where we're no longer locked in a single room where I can walk over and hand somebody a disk or load it up on their dev kit and say, hey, please check this out. What commonly happens is we have to send a build to some remote dev team halfway around the world, make sure that that's sent to them in a very secure manner so we know only they're getting it and they can't do anything else with it. And so ADT helps our customers to distribute the builds anywhere in the world real time, helps them to save on costs where we have a smart build functionality where you're not sending the entire build each time, which is very heavy in terms of data egress fees. We're just caching and then sending what that diff is, and then compiling on the back end, which helps reduce overall cost by about 90%. And then as you have QA or remote teams looking at that build and testing, say they run into a crash. If you're using the core AccelByte Gaming Services plus ADT, what's going to happen is that crash reports and video is automatically going to be captured. Crash reports going to be compiled and sent back to you real time. And so that's really the build health aspect where you say, okay, I got this build. I'm coming up to an open alpha or a closed alpha or an open beta, and I need to get this build out to as many people as possible. ADT helps you do that in a secure fashion, helps you reduce cost, but then also helps you to get those crash reporting and telemetry reporting almost instantly. So then you can fix those issues and then address and make sure that the end player is having a great experience. And so again, all in the spirit of helping speed up time to market and just taking a lot of that heavy lifting off of customers and making it just a super simple experience, even when it comes down to the simple things like, how do I get a build to somebody?
Yeah, I mean, look, and in a not just a distributed world in terms of the way people play games across devices globally, but we're also working in a remote collaborative work environment where you want to bring in the best developers, best artists, best modelers, best storytellers from around the world. This gives you a platform to manage that complex kind of tapestry of engagement, of engineering, of developers, of your game company in a way that makes everything consistent, make sure everyone's on the proper build, make sure the play tests are done correctly, make sure stuff is locked, make sure that you have the correct authentication around all of these things. So it helps you manage the entire development, the entire build, run, and grow deployment of your games for a global game development environment as well as a global game playing audience.
That is correct.
Amazing. Amazing. All right. AccelByte Gaming Services, AccelByte Multiplayer Services, AccelByte Intelligence Service, and AccelByte Developer Toolkit. Four great things for any developer coming to the AccelByte website to go ahead and start digging into and understanding how they can leverage these services to make the game development process better and the games better for their players. Fantastic, Rob. All right, Rob. So those services sound amazing, but let's say that I'm a developer sitting out there going, I don't know if I need all of these things. I'm pretty smart. I can go build all these things myself, and it shouldn't take too much time, right? Why should a game developer choose to work with an AccelByte or utilize AccelByte solutions versus building it themselves?
Great question. And it's something that we get asked a lot is the build versus buy, and what should I do? And so we simply just state that the average studio dedicates approximately 10 to 20% of their overall resources, and it takes about 2 to 3 years to build a workable backend solution. You can speed that up dramatically. AccelByte easily integrates with your existing tech stack, as we have discussed, and you can do it all for 1/10 of the cost. And so really the core advantage is saving those times and those resources and that time and having them put on more creative aspects of the game, helping you remove a lot of the undifferentiated heavy lifting, and again, do it at 1/10 of the cost. And so there's a lot of immediate advantages in there, just being able to help you get started quickly and not really have to think about who are the people I got to hire, what is the talent I need to bring in to make this work, and how much is it going to cost me. You can just trust in that our solution will help you get up to speed quickly.
Yeah, I think one of the key things you hit on there, right, is you're able to then take that time, take that additional savings, and put it into building a bigger game, more art, more story, more interactive spaces, and not worry about the underlying technology that is critical to the deployment and management and development of the game. But that's the stuff that's typically hidden from the player. That's not the stuff that they're most concerned about. They assume all these things are going to work. What they want are those better stories. They want more characters. They want more story. They want more art. And so by focusing on that aspect of game development and leaving the undifferentiated services to partners like AccelByte gives them the ability to basically lengthen their runway and still bring in their time to market.
That is true. And then combined with some of our other services like AccelByte Intelligence Services, we're helping to take the guesswork out of actually building the game. So using data to help build a better experience for the end player. And then also what we see today is that our current analytics service is priced about 10% less than our closest competitor. And so one, we're saving additional costs and also time in having to build out a specific analytics team as well. So you can pick up a lot of these tools right off the shelf, be immediately productive, get the insight to your players and how they're playing your game, and then again, continue to focus on making a better game.
Very cool. Yeah, and then the development toolkit also speeds up the building of those games, right? Reduces data transfer as well, correct?
That is correct. So Development Toolkit enables about 10x speed on building the games.
Wow.
And then Smart Build, which really affects the time and cost, helps you reduce cost by about 90%. So Smart Build is, again, just taking the diff in that build process. So you don't have to recompile the entire game each time. It just takes the diff, matches that up, and then gets the right build into the developers or QA's hands anywhere in the world.
All right, Rob. So now I understand the services that AccelByte offers me as a game developer and why I'd want to go ahead and use it. But what I also want to know is who's already using AccelByte. Can you talk about some of the customers and the games that are using AccelByte today?
For sure. So we've supported some of the biggest game companies and biggest game launches in the world. And so specifically here, we have some of the ones that you would be familiar with, but 2K, we have Theorycraft, Hidden Leaf, Build a Rocket Boy, Remedy Games, Volition. So we have a huge list of logos and customers that we've been working with to successfully launch their games or helping them to dev their upcoming to-be released games. And then in addition to that, we have some very significant backing throughout the industry. So just to highlight some of our core investors as well, we have Galaxy Interactive, we have SoftBank, we have Dreamhaven, NetEase, we have Sony Interactive. And so those are some big industry names behind us as well. And really just one, we're helping them to develop and launch their own games, but then also leveraging them and their knowledge in the industry to improve our own product to make sure it is the best it can be.
Very cool. And those are some big names. Are there any ones you want to talk about in particular? So maybe a couple that you want to share with our audience.
Yeah, there's a few that I'd like to share. The first is Omida Studios. So Omida is currently working on the game Predecessor. And the big call out here is as they've been working on Predecessor, they've been able to do this and build out their entire backend or their backend services with one backend engineer. So again, as I said earlier in the discussion, usually that could be 10, 15 people in multiple years. They've been able to do this with a single person as they've ramped up to their launch. And so Predecessor, they just did their PlayStation open beta, saw some extremely positive results from that. And again, have been able to continue to scale with very minimal resources applied to the project. Another great one to highlight along the same lines is our friends at Tripwire. And Tripwire and Sweet Bandits, they launched the game Deceived with only 2 backend developers. So again, just a testament to how, again, the customer can really just focus on the creative elements of the game and really just minimize the amount of resources that they're applying to the backend support and have the trust that AccelByte Gaming Services are going to help them scale to what they need to do.
Okay, and Rob, maybe a third customer that you'd like to share some information about.
Yeah, for sure. Another great call out is our friends at Dreamhaven. Our friends at Dreamhaven have been able to build out their entire analytics pipeline with one pseudo engineer. And again, analytics being fundamental to any game's experience, typically that requires that you hire a few data analytics to build up the pipeline, plus some data analysts to understand what data is coming out of it so you can make that decision. Dreamhaven was able to do this with one person, leveraging our full backend suite of AIS to get the information they need to continue to help refine their game experiences for their players.
I mean, so a single engineer at Dreamhaven, a single backend engineer at Omida. I mean, the number of engineers that you need to actually manage these things goes down dramatically when you partner with AccelByte, because you're taking care of all that heavy lifting, so they can bring on, again, more artists, more game programmers, more storytellers, right? To again build a better game.
That's always our goal, is really, again, just making sure that we're helping reduce time to market, reduce a lot of heavy lifting, and help customers reduce costs. And we feel that that is really the core of what AccelByte can bring to the games industry, is just really just focusing on the creative elements. As I said earlier, I want to help customers build games that I want to go home and play. Ultimately, I'm a gamer. And so when I'm not game or nerding out on technology, I'm usually playing something on the TV behind me. And so how do I help customers bring those games to market as quickly and as cost effective as possible? That's always going to be our mission, our goal, and what we strive to do for many years to come.
So, Rob, look, all of the technology and solutions that AccelByte provides, you mentioned earlier on that you're leveraging AWS technologies and services to enable those tool sets, right? The offerings that AccelByte provides to your game developer customers. So, can you talk a bit about some of the AWS technologies and services that AccelByte uses?
For sure. So some of the core things that we're leveraging, obviously EC2 to help manage and operate our game servers and bring low latency experiences to customers all over the world. In addition to that, we're using some of the core infrastructure like S3 storage. We use a lot of DynamoDB for our database services and helping to support some of our MMO and RPG, just to make sure that we can collect all that player profile in a single place. For the analytics pipeline, we're using a lot of the core AWS infrastructure, specifically leveraging Redshift to ingest a lot of that data and then sanitize that data, using Kinesis to help ingest from multiple endpoints to make sure that you can import into one consistent data warehouse. And then on the back end of that, using some of the AWS machine learning tools to help then provide some intelligence and refine that data and give intelligence suggestions and meaningful, actionable suggestions back to the developers once they have that data in.
So, just a few AWS services to help AccelByte deliver those benefits, right, to customers. And it doesn't hurt that they also happen to have exemplary former AWS employees also working there at AccelByte, right? And to build on that expertise, like yourself, right, Rob?
Yes, 8 years of AWS experience.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think I can actually say that AWS is purpose-built cloud for the games industry. And I say that a lot of the tools and infrastructure that goes in from the AWS side helps us to remove a lot of our undifferentiated heavy lifting as well. And so what we see is the benefit from all the work that AWS does to optimize for network latency for player experience. We're able to leverage all of those benefits and then build up the stack solutions that are a little more customizable and more tailored to the specific game developer need, and then provide that benefit to the end customer. And so from our perspective, there wouldn't be another partner that we would work with in the industry that could provide equal amount of solution, but also just delivering the world-class experience that AWS does.
And we love working with partners like AccelByte so we can deliver to our collective endpoint game customers, right? The experiences that they expect and the development environment they expect. So lovely to partner with you on this as well, Rob. All right, Rob. So all these different services as a game developer I have access to, I can integrate it into my own pipeline. I've got all these different microservices I can pull from. It's riding on top of AWS's global cloud infrastructure. You have all these companies that are using it. All right. Now I need to know as a developer, what's it going to cost me to get started? I've not used these types of services before. What can I expect from a pricing perspective? Why don't you walk our viewers through the pricing, the cost of getting started on AccelByte?
For sure. So first and foremost, we clearly understand and know ourselves the risk of launching a new game. There's a lot of unknowns, and as you're launching a new game, cost is always a big factor. If I don't know how much money I'm going to make, how much do I know I want to pay, and will I ever be able to recoup? And so to help solve for that, the first step, and I'm very happy to say, the first step, you come to us, you get started for free. And so we have our introduction tier. It's called AGS Starter. This is a free tier where you have access to the full suite of services available in AGS. Uh, what it is, though, it is rate limited. So you have a time limited free tier where you can go in and start to use some of our services, start to consume, integrate with your game, test, make sure it is the right thing for you and what you want to build. And then as you start to see success, our services will scale with you. And so we have our specific features, which are charged at an HAU, right? So what HAU is hourly active user. And so what we look at that is how do we price our services to be in line with the usage pattern as much as possible? So the term is hug the curve, and we want our pricing to hug the curve as much as possible. And so as AWS does, they have on-demand pricing that flexes based on demand and auto scales up and down. And so what we have is HAU, which gets a little more granular, hourly active user, and we measure that and charge based on how many users are actually active in your game for a specific hour. Now, if you have a player who is active in the day but only plays for that 1 hour, what that means is you're only paying for usage of that 1 hour. The other 23 hours where they're not playing, you're not paying for any of that usage and incurring any unneeded cost.
Right.
And so our cost model will hug the curve with your player demand. So as I said, you get started for free. You can start to consume your services. As you see your game take off, you would then activate and pay for one of our premium tiers. And that premium tier unlocks the HAU modeling, which is an on-demand consumption. And then again, we just charge per rate by that customer. As you're going through development, maybe you're not ready for production yet. But as you're going through development, you think that you need a little more resources to help you get started.
Mm-hmm.
And so we also offer some premium tiers for our development as well. And so what that is we have 3 tiers. There's standard, professional, and enterprise. At each one of these tiers, you unlock additional resources and benefits that will help you manage the development process to make sure that you have all the support you need. And some of those support elements equal, we have 24/7 live ops support. As you go through some of the development tiers, we also introduce dedicated technical producers. Technical producers are going to help you actually go through the launch readiness process and make sure that you've ticked all the boxes necessary to have a successful game launch. We also provide a dedicated Slack channel to our customers. So you have immediate and easy communication with our teams. So you don't have to go and say, I need to submit a trouble ticket and wait for a response. You can just immediately have that discussion with the team via Slack and get an immediate response to any concern that you're having. And so those features become available as you sign up to some of our dev tiers. And so I can talk about that for half a second.
Sure.
So as you go through our dev tiers, we have multiple, as I said, you get started for free. For free, you still get our production SLAs, which is 99.9% uptime. But then you're focused really on self-service support via our forums or community. As you start to go up in the paid tiers, you get a dedicated environment. So you move from a multi-tenant environment to a single-tenant environment. You get the web portal support, you get live ops monitoring, dedicated account manager, dedicated technical producer support. And then, as I said, Slack channel, bi-weekly updates. So the amount of support that you get will then scale based on your needs as a customer and as your game scales. And so the way this works, you get started for free. You can just quickly upgrade to one of the premium tiers as you feel necessary or as your support requirements increase.
Very cool. So yeah, so I can go ahead and get started, start exploring these services, understand how to use them, and start building on those. So through a development phase, right, I may be able to leverage again the starter, the starter services for a period of time. And when I'm ready to move forward, I don't need to go to refactor anything. I don't need to worry about bringing on new services. Move up into the standard tier, start getting direct support, right, and access to that pool of technical producers, and can continue building and evolving my game. And as I grow, my success and my player base grows, AccelByte grows right along with me.
That is correct. And we want to make sure that we are being a good partner and sharing in some of that risk. Again, we know
Yeah.
launching games is hard. There's a lot of unknowns. And so how do we help invest in our customers and partners early on through that free tier, help ensure that they're as successful as they can be, and then scale accordingly with them, with their success.
So a lot of times when we're thinking about game development, especially if it's a newer studio, right, that's just starting up, you're trying to get to that vertical slice of gameplay because you're either looking for investors or you're looking to kind of, um, you know, fully flesh out your ideas and your gameplay loop. And so sometimes we don't consider these backend services until later in the development pipeline. And we don't believe that's the best approach, correct? Like, when should a developer really be thinking about these types of services as they're building a new game studio or building a new game project from, you know, step one?
So we typically get involved very, very early. So 2 to 3 years before the actual game release and prior to vertical slice. So we're probably involved in the tech evaluation phase. And the reason for that is live service games are extremely complex and extremely difficult.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of technology choices that you need to make very early on that are going to influence what type of game that you're able to build and bring to your end customer. And so we get involved with customers very, very early, pre kind of investor stage where they're really looking at. And we work with many of our customers through those early phases up into the point where they're seeking investment. And so tools like ADT help them to bring that build to their investors so then they can get those play tests and make sure that everyone's happy with what they're building all the way through so we call it, we help customers build, launch, and operate live service games. And so the entire cycle, the entire game development life cycle. But again, start very, very early in the process to make sure that you understand all the complexities of building live service games. And then we help to make the right decisions along the way to make the best game possible.
Yeah. And remember, folks, because it is a microservices architecture, you don't have to use everything at the beginning. So even getting started on a platform like AccelByte with just a couple of the core features, as you start to grow, as your game changes, which a lot of them do, or the types of offerings change, you're already going to be integrated into a platform that allows for these additional microservices as you need them to be introduced into your pipeline and integrated into your own internally developed tools as well. So again, the earlier, I mean, it should be right at the beginning of your development cycle, right? Right at the beginning of your development journeys when you really need to be looking at these services and start integrating them from the beginning, because you don't know where that adventure is going to take you. So better to be ready to address those features, to address those needs without having to rebuild or refactor your game entirely from scratch at some further point down the road. So excellent advice, Rob. What other considerations should I be aware of? You know, game engines or supported platforms. Can you talk a bit about the engines that you support and the platforms that you support as well?
Yeah, so going back to the spirit of leave no developer behind, we support a majority of all the commonly used game engines, so specifically UE4, UE5, and Unity. And then we support all game platforms, so PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, Steam, Epic Game Store, Apple, Google, you name it, we will support it. Because of the microservices and the customizability and extensibility, we're also future-proofing. So who knows what the next big platform will be? VR being a great example. We do have some games released on VR platforms and MetaQuest today as well. And so from that perspective, we just want to make sure that If people can think about it, our platform will support it.
All right, Rob, what are the 3 big things that you want viewers to walk away with knowing today?
For sure. So I think the 3 biggest things, just to reiterate what we've been talking about today. One, AccelByte is a backend that helps you build, launch, and operate live service games, and helps you do that faster without compromise. We understand that it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, so it's built on extensible, massively scalable microservices architecture. And then lastly, AccelByte is built on decades of combined game infrastructure experience. Some of our founders have experience from Fortnite, Xbox Live, PlayStation, EA, and so we bring a lot of that experience.
AWS,
AWS as well.
Bandai Namco.
We bring a lot of that experience, but more specifically the scars and the learnings from those experiences with us. We've implemented all of those learnings in the platform, and so you don't have to fail yourselves. We've already failed. Learn from our failures. Use the platform, and then use it to bring those great games to your end player.
So, folks, I have been spending the day here with Rob Schoeppe, the Chief Commercial Officer over at AccelByte. Rob, thank you so much for spending time with me today, walking our viewers through AccelByte, the services that you offer, and how they can utilize AccelByte and AWS to accelerate their game development journey to a global audience and a global game developer pool. So once again, Rob, thank you so much for taking time with us and spending it with us here today on the Partner Profiles program.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a great time. And again, any questions, please feel free to reach out directly from any channel. We're happy to support.
Excellent. Thank you all.